Welcome to the podcast, Pilates for PTs, from business to clinical. Hi y'all, my name is Stephen Dunn. I co-own Core Therapy and Pilates in Austin, Texas, and I'm the founder of Pilates for PTs. I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years, and I've been teaching Pilates and gyrotonic in my physical therapy practice for the last 15 years. In this podcast, I interview experts from all over the world so that you can learn more on how to grow your business or how to improve your clinical skills as a Pilates instructor in the physical therapy world. Thanks for listening. All right. Welcome. Hey, guys. Thank you all for joining us. We have today on our podcast, Vijay Patel. He is a physical therapist. He is a business owner. He is an author. And with that, I want to introduce Vijay. Introduce yourself. Actually, Vijay, come on and tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you become a physical therapist, my man?
Okay, so you just want me to brag myself?
That's right.
Okay, so hi everyone. This is Vijay Patel. So thank you, Stephen, for inviting me as a guest speaker.
You're welcome.
But I'll just introduce myself a little bit. As he said, I'm a physical therapist. I started my journey in 2010. That was my first job that I got in New York, heart of New York, Brooklyn. And I stayed in New York for like 2 years, and I kind of started my journey as a staff PT. I had my ups and downs. I had served as a different roles, starting from staff PT to rehab director, administrator. And now I have moved to a position where I own several businesses in healthcare space. And now, I'm trying to, get hold of those things. And that's where I think we'll be talking more as the live goes on.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you started your journey, and from the journey when you became a physical therapist, how long did it take for you to get into business ownership? What was that journey like of, yes, you're a physical therapist, and then all of a sudden you're a business owner? Tell me a little bit about that process.
Okay, so my family background is in business. My family, apart from me, everybody is a businessman. My dad has a diamond business, and we own diamond cutting and manufacturing units in India, and here we have an office in Dallas too. But from my background, I started as a staff PT, having no idea that how I want to move up myself into the ladder. But I was fortunate enough to have my first job, which was also a starting company, and willing to grow as much as they want. And they wanted guys to jump in and take their leadership roles and try making things work for them. So my business owner, the owner that I used to work for, he happened to have a big money. So every 6 months when he shows up in a meeting, he happened to have a folder in his hand, and he ended up buying something. And then he drops that folder into the desk, says, okay, I bought this thing, now figure it out. And it was my job and the DON, the nurse administrator, it was her job and my job to make things work. So we started I was working as a staff PT for 6 months, and then I was assigned this assignment that my owner bought it. He bought it a ran-down assisted living facility for 60 beds, and maybe he got a good deal out of it. So he bought it, and then me and the DON jumped in. We flipped that thing upside down because there was a lot of mistakes, I would say, from providing the care to the guys that who were in the leadership role. So we had to flip that place almost upside down, and it took us almost 6 to 8 months to do it. And of course, the process was really grinding at times. The pressure was really high, and I was naive into the process. So it was I literally burned myself in the first shot, but the first one luckily went in the right way. So in 6-8 months, we started, flipping that business, and we started making $1 million in first year in profit alone. And then, my confidence started growing up and up and up. And then my owner kept buying businesses. So he ended up buying a nursing home. Then after 6 months, he ended up buying a community hospital. So my 2 years of working in that company, we end up having 5 businesses in a different category, and they were like each and every business was growing. And uh, at that point, I started realizing that there is something more than a staff PT in me that I have to explore. And like I started moving myself up in the ladder, and I started serve as a nursing home administrator or even administrator for like community hospital at some point. But then like New York was not my place to be for the weather reason, and like just the city life is too busy for me. So I just wanted to settle down, so I moved back into like Dallas in 2012 and started as a staff again in 2012. I didn't know where I'm going or what I'm supposed to do, but I started like I worked for 6 months, and then I started having a feel of the industry again, like how things are different from New York to Texas, because every state is totally different. Like the business side of it is totally different. So I started to get a feel of it, and then I bought like started my home health care in 2013. I worked like my heart and soul, and I like that business did not fly in. That was my first venture as an independent. And after putting 1.5 year, all my money in, uh, because the Medicare decided not to allow any more Medicare numbers to the home health agency, like the moratorium kicked in basically. And for that reason alone, I was screwed. And I could not open up my home health agency, even though I had all the credentials. I did everything right, but Medicare decided not to give the number. So, I took a big hit in terms of like financial loss, and in terms of my confidence too. Again, I found like a good partner, to help me the transition. So I partnered up with somebody who already had a home health, because he knew that I had experience of running the business. So he brought me in as a partner, and then we started growing up. Starting from 2015 to 17, we ended up having 2 home health care, a therapy division on the side. And then in like last year, we also bought an outpatient clinic in Dallas, Texas. So to summarize,
Wow.
last 10 years of my experience, I started getting more and more, passionate about the numbers, because more and more businesses I get involved in, or I get a chance to look at it. Most of the time, I see that when a business can make it or break it, it all comes down to numbers. And over the period of time, I started fixing all those numbers, and I now I have the confidence, and now I can say confidently that now officially I'm into the business of flipping healthcare businesses. So from this year, we're like, and the good news that I would like to share is like 2 weeks ago, I recently sold my home healthcare business. So
Nice.
I'm making the exit as a profit, of course, and like I'm looking into my next adventure. So I'm already looking into some business potentials that I have on my desk, and like I think I'll be going full time by flipping healthcare businesses. So I'll be buying businesses that are struggling, and then making it work.
Got it. That's awesome. And so let's just kind of summarize a little bit. In New York, you were working with someone that was buying the businesses, but you were a big part of the building the businesses, but you weren't necessarily a part of the ownership. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then when you came to Texas, you opened your first place on your own. It didn't go so well. Found a partner that had some experience in the industry you were in. You took his experience, you took your experiences, combined it together, and then it's been a snowball of positive since. Does that summarize all that?
Yeah.
I love that.
So like the first job, like the New York job was pure experience. Somebody trusted my ability,
Yeah.
even though I did not had money, which of course, 80 or 90% of the people right now may be passing through the same phase, right? But like only one thing I would say is like as long as you have the ability, somebody else has the money for sure.
That's a great point. That's a very good point.
So
that's awesome.
That's what I would like to say.
And so you got like a little trial with the people in New York. You got a taste of got a taste of like building a business, and taking what they were buying and what they were acquiring and how to make it work. So it was a great experience. And then again, you took your failure and you didn't let that failure define you. You kept making steps, you kept taking action, and now you're at a place where you're flipping businesses. So I love the story. And again, since we've last talked, things have changed with what's happened 2 weeks ago. So that's the beauty of us getting together. Now, let me ask you this: when you started buying, what was the shift? Or let me back up before I get to that. When did you stop seeing patients and just only deal with administrative stuff? Or are you still seeing some patients here and there? Or are you strictly administrator, and you pay people to do the patient care? Tell me a little bit about that transition from clinician to business owner. But some business owners really stay as clinicians, even though they're business owners. So tell me a little bit about how that's transitioned for you and where you're at in that process.
Yeah, no, like I think it's a great question and great dilemma for anybody who is a clinician. Okay, because like there are times that you question that, like, am I doubting my clinical skills? No, but there is something good everybody has, that edge that you have, right? So what I found out over the period of time is I have an edge on the business side. Even though I'm a good clinician, I'm a doctorate in physical therapy, specialized in joint replacement arthritis. I have done my internship from NYU and stuff. So I have a great resume when it comes to being a clinical, or even when it comes to patient care. So like the confidence is there, but my ability is needed somewhere else where there is a lack of support. So that's where I try to shine out. And when it comes to patient care, still today I try to see at least 5 to 10 patients depending upon my schedule, but I just try to reserve myself as a last resort, that if nobody's doing it, yes, I'm doing it. And it like that, like DFW is so like vast, and a metroplex that we used to cover, that so a lot of times we don't find a staff, or somebody is sick, or somebody needs to cover it. So I just since last 5 years, I would say I keep myself as a reserve, but at any given day, any given point, I would not mind patient care if I have to.
Got it. And that's kind of where I'm at. I love patient care, but I love the business side. But I've been really heavy in the patient care for many, many, many years, and I've been slowly transitioning out of it since November as I brought Andy in. But that's hard for me because I'm used to seeing 35, 40 people a week, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. And it's been a hard transition to go down to 20, 25. That feels really slow to me, even it just feels it. And so it's very, very strange. But I know it's something I have to continue to do. My next step is to get down to 15 and then down to 10 per week. And then again, Andy building. And I'm not seeing any new patients. I'm only seeing patients that already have relationships with me, that already know me. But it's one of those things where that's been hard for me because I do love clinic patient care, but I also love the business side of it. But the patient care has gotten in the way of me being able to run my business the way I truly want to. And I know that, and I appreciate that. And I'm doing things to offset that right now with bringing in the right staff to help me with patient care. But with that said, now that's all, again, the reason I asked that question is because that's what I want to hear. I need to find.
And I think I can relate the same issue with me too, but I think I had a very short time to make the transition, because I was like pushed into it. Like, I would not say like pushed into it, but like, yeah, there was an opportunity that I did not expect it, but it just happened to be in my lap, and then I grabbed it, and it turned out to be good, right? But like even like personally, when I made a transition, if I go back 5-6 years ago, for first like year, I took a pay cut. I literally took a pay cut. I decided to see from 35 to 40 patients in home care to only to seeing 20 patients. So like, I started like, pushing myself down. So initially there was a gap with no thoughts, but you have to have that gap in order to create a space for, some more new thoughts to come in. If your brain is too much occupied by regular stuff, then the new ideas or new, seeds are not going to like sprout in your brain. And it still happens to me like till today. If I'm like really into like certain things for like a month, then I will not get, like, let's say, I would like to help out the online community, which I have. But since last 1 month, we have been going through this transition that I was just so much busy that everything else was just kind of neglected, because my business was going through a sale. I wanted to make sure everything goes in the right manner. And, so since last 1 month, I was just deep into it. So nothing else was even my focus, or nothing else was even crossing my mind. So sometimes, that happens to like most of the guys. But like, since we are trying to share, this platform as a journey and experience, uh, the problem with the industry is, especially with the healthcare professional, is everybody teaches you how to be a good clinician, but nobody teaches you how the business side works. And people end up working as an employee for the rest of their life, which they should not.
Yeah.
Because at the end, when like, especially things uh, like goes in a down ways, like when you are 55 or 65 and you are a physical therapist, the amount of physical activity is required is way more demanding than, that maybe limit yourself to even function, right? I have a really good friend. She herself has a disc problem, so she had to quit outpatient just because now she cannot do all the lifting and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So even though she's a great clinician, hands down PT, but she had to modify her stuff. And at some point, we all will be going, to age out, right? And our profession requires so much of physical, upfront, that will not be the case every time, right? So let me share you, like, I think I told you personally, but I think I would just like to share like the life-changing event, I would say, in my life, that literally shook me from my inside out. And this incident happened, like, I think 6 months of my starting of career in New York. So I was a home health PT going all over New York City. And I know New York City, each and every corner, more than I would say people who lived, like, actually lived for like last 30, 40 years. I know each and every corner of the New York City, because I was doing home care, so I was like going all over. But 6 months of my starting job, I had this patient. He had a hip, like, it was a winter time, so he had a fall, ended up fracturing his hip, and, like, doctor did a replacement. So the start of care was done. I went there for evaluation, and he was a nice guy, like in his 55, I would say, like, 55 to 60. And like, the moment I stepped into his house, we started talking about his evaluation history, what happened and stuff. And by the time I finished my evaluation, he told me one thing, that can I ask you a favor? I said, okay, what? I can help you. So he said, like, can you put in a request to change your OT for me? And then, I said, okay, what happened? Like, and I started my computer, like, I looked up my tablet and I saw there was a name of OT that I know. And she was the one who came in the morning, did her evaluation. And so I started digging in, what happened? Why, like, why you want to change your OT? So he said, like, one thing, like, she happened to be 65 and she happened to have broke her hip too. So she was also going under rehab, basically. And I knew her personally. She was one of the best clinical therapists I have ever known for that point. But for patient, he just looked as like, if somebody's walking with a cane, I don't want to be treated like how they are going to be treating me as a, like, as a patient, and teaching me the same thing. So he kind of just developed a doubt, and then he requested to change. And now I'm thinking, like, I'm in the middle of the thought, just right there. My life is flashing like forward. So I'm just imagining, I was 25 at that point, and I was like, what if I'm at this same situation, right? I have 40 years of physical therapy experience, hands down clinicals, and I happen to have a knee pain, and I'm walking with a cane, showing up to a patient door, and patient is saying no because I'm walking with the cane, and patient is also walking with the cane. and it's just creating a self-doubt. And at that point, I was like, I just don't want to see that person me. Like it's just no. Like, and that night I went home and I could not even sleep. I like the only thought was like, I just don't want to be that guy, like who gets rejected. So there's something to be done, right? So I just started like a kind of reverse engineering, like how can I make this possible? And then I decided kind of a deadline that okay, like 40 to 45, I want to give up my clinical role, and then I just want to move up to like something that is more administrative side of it, which I can still be a help at the same time. I don't want to repeat the same scenario what happened to me at the age of 25, right? So, and I think that incident still stays with me, and that still motivates me to the day. And I was fortunate enough that I'm like my goals are achieved, and I'm 33 right now. So I own like right now I already sold like my home healthcare, but I still own two businesses as of today. So that's kind of my journey. But at the same time, like since last 2 years, I've been from my inner voice, I would say, is like when I see a lot of therapists going through the same situation, like I can see there's a lot of groups popping up for side hustles and side income and all kind of things. But the thing is like, why do you have to go to the side income, right? Because your main income is just shrinking to a point that you cannot even justify, right? Then there is a fundamentally something wrong.
I agree with that.
Now, like that's where I want to, start like taking initiative of like teaching people, because Medicare is paying same money, like almost the same money. Like maybe it's a little different, like maybe 8% cut here and there, but like it used to pay $150. Now it's $120 for home healthcare visit, or maybe from $200 to $150. But it's not to a point where I can see like I just showed up one Indeed post this morning, which was like a medical record reviewer job for a PT starting for $15 to $20 an hour.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So things are really going, in a wrong way, which leads to a question that like there is something to be done, right?
For sure.
And like I'm not trying to be more negative here, but at the same time trying to more educate people, because like people have been literally ignorant about how the business side of healthcare works. Recently, like when I posted like research that showed that 80% of physical therapists don't even know how much CPT code they're billing is getting paid actually, right? So that much of ignorance is going on in like the industry. So like if that is the mentality, then the only way is like down way. There's no like you're only you are only thinking, how can I stay afloat? Forget about even growing yourself. The only thought that is coming is, how am I going to meet my paycheck, or how am I going to meet my ends meet? Now I'm going to start my side hustle, and you will be getting more and more busy, and then like you will be in a vicious circle that your brain will not have a free time to think something new, which is going to be more productive or more appealing. You will be just grinding through the process so much that you will spend 20 years of your life like this, and you won't even realize it.
For sure. Now I love that, because the side hustle is what everyone's looking at right now. But if the side hustle takes away, it's bringing your ability to make some extra income, yes, but it's taking away from your energy and effort at your other job. At some point, the burnout becomes based on you're trying to do too much, not just the burnout being based on your corporate job or your regular job, right? And so that's a great point. I hadn't actually thought about it that way. So you and I are both business owners. When should someone take their side hustle and turn it into their permanent gig?
So I have explained in detail of my book that was transition from employee to employer that I wrote. So I explained in detail how I did it, because I did not had any godfather or anything. I had to do it myself. So even I I had side hustles, but my side hustles was more of focusing on getting more extra income than trying to develop anything more than I should. What I was doing was I was just catching up with PRN in nursing homes and getting like consistently $2,000 biweekly. So any side hustle that you do, my only thing is find something that is consistent. That has to be consistent. If it is just a flare of time, I see like there are people posting $10,000 mark, but that's a one-time shot. Then they are quiet for last like next 2 years. So find something that gives you $500. Doesn't matter, like maybe $100 weekly, but consistency is the key. And if that will lead you a long way, then $1,000 or $5,000 short of one time, because then like things will be quiet for 6 months again. And there's a lot of inconsistency, because when your income is consistent, you can plan way more things. You can budget yourself accordingly. And as you mentioned, I'm the numbers guy, and like last 10 years I have kind of developed affinity towards numbers. So like if I see there's no good business or bad business, but yeah, there's always a good business owner and bad business owners. Okay. And what my comes down is like, I have to look into the numbers. If anyone asking me that, okay, like, I have to evaluate a business, the first thing I'm going to ask is show me your numbers. Because once I see your numbers, I don't have to ask you any single questions, because I know exactly how you're operating. And like yesterday, I was reading like Tony Martino. He just posted one thing, and like I can resonate a lot of relation to it. Is like he posted that the mortgage rate is so much down right now that maybe you want to think about refinancing, right? So it has the same relation into the business. Okay, everybody is focused on how can I improve the profit, how can I improve the profit, how can I improve the profit, or how can I improve the revenue. But what I realized actually is you don't have to improve the profit, or you don't have to improve your revenue. You just cut down your cost. The simple example I can tell you is the last year, the clinic we bought, it was paying $8,000 in rent. So that's $96,000 a year pre-tax money going away just like that. Okay. And because of one-on-one with Medicare and stuff, there's not going to be 10 patients in one time. If you have unless you have like 10 PTs hiring, that's a different thing. But we have 2 staff PTs. So the max you will have is 4 people in the clinic. So you don't need that extra space. So we cut it out, all the extra space that we want, we didn't need. We started subleasing. Now my rent is down to $3,000. I'm making $5,000 profit just like that. Just by doing that, I made $60,000 a year.
Yeah, instead of throwing it away in rent, throwing away $100,000 in rent, you're making money, and it's a total shift. I love that. So again, you looked at the numbers of, all right, where can we change some of these numbers, and that was the first thing you do. So where did you sublease space out to other similar practices?
Yep. Or aestheticians, massage therapists, something that is more synergy at the same time, because what we wanted to know was like, of course, we don't act as naive and just give it out. So what we did was we planned out accordingly. So now we have a chiropractor coming in. We just lease him an office. We have a synergy, right? Then we have a massage therapist leasing the office, and same thing, we have a doctor who's leasing the office for 2 days. So he's just coming for 2 days, and he just wanted to increase his coverage area for like a physician. So his patient does not have to drive all the way to downtown Dallas, right? So he's coming down to McKinney for 2 days to serve his patients. And we are just providing the lease for space for him.
Yep.
And plus in return, we also get some referrals from him.
Sure. I like that. And how'd you go about finding those people that have ended up leasing from you? Is that something you put out ads in like Craigslist? Did you, what was your process to find those people? Was it more word of mouth?
Initially we started with Facebook and Craigslist and all, but then I I found a good like a realtor and a friend. Now he's taking care of everything. So but yeah, the good point to start is always a Facebook and a Craigslist. But then we realized that we like what the disadvantage of like just posting it online is you just getting a random inquiries.
Yeah.
Like somebody is like a nail salon or somebody is like a hairdresser needing the space. So it's like it's good, but at the same time it's not a synergy that is going through. So what we realize is instead, like, let's invest in a realtor who gets a commission. It's fine, but at the same time, he's going to make that effort to find that synergy so
Right.
that it eventually improves the business overall.
I like that. I like that. Now, I want to just go over what Andy said. I posted below. It says, when he was employed, the fee schedule was kept a secret, as a secret by the employees. So they didn't know what their fee schedule was. I believe that most employees honestly don't have any way to know how much revenue they generate. That's a good point. And that's with what you were saying earlier. And Andy, I think that that's something that the physical therapy profession, not knowing what they generate, is a part of how they've kept us down. It's a part of how they kept paying.
Now you just Google it. Since last 6 years, Google has made everybody's life easy.
That's so true.
Everything is Google. Like you don't have to find what is your employer is making. Okay, that's like, I think that's a wrong mentality. For being an employer side, find out what is the industry average. That's the basic thing you should be knowing. You don't need to know like the inside of your business or anything else, because maybe that kind of gets you into trouble too sometimes, because you are entering into something that you should not as an employee, right? But like the best thing is Google it. Even WebPT, like WebPT publishes data of reimbursement every single year. Like the industry average, each CPT code, how much they are getting paid, which are the CPT codes are being used more frequently, which are the CPT codes are being denied more frequently. There's all kind of data available online. So my advice is, like, when I say, trying to know the numbers is not like, looking into your employer's data, but yeah, just find out what is going on in the industry, or, just find out what setting is getting paid. Like if you're working in a nursing home, how much nursing home is getting paid, because everybody gets paid differently.
Yep.
So, how much outpatient is getting paid, or how much is home care getting paid. Just Google it and find out, some numbers around it. And like the reason we are talking about numbers is like, what we identified is, the number has to make sense. If you are, like, let's say, outpatient business owner, right? So if I decide to open up an outpatient clinic in downtown Manhattan, right, and I'm treating a Medicare patient which is paying me $120, the business is not going to make sense, because the rent is going to kill me itself, right? So that's what, like, the fundamental applies, and that's what I try to, strive in, is like, you have to identify yourself. You cannot just copy paste somebody. It doesn't work like that. Okay, even though like somebody is in Dallas and want to copy paste my clinic, it doesn't work like that. Okay, you have to have, like, a flow that is going through according to your clinic, and you have to have a staff who is following the flow. As long as that happens, then only your business will be successful. Otherwise, you will be struggling through the process. I think we had like, if you remember, we had a conversation where, like, we about the staff, like, you told me about, how I was struggling to find a front desk, because the synergy doesn't match, and you have to find a person who has the vision of, like, similar to you, or who can, like, imagine or envision your vision, right, kind of thing. So your experience doesn't matter, but you have to have people, maybe, like, you have to start from ground up. Just find somebody who is blank, and then you teach them the way you want it, instead of somebody who has already, like, set standards, and then trying to work around it. So, like, flipping a business, it's fun now, but at the same time it can be like a really burnout process. And like, if you don't know what you're doing, then, like, the first thing is going to happen is you will lose money. and you will lose money like a big time, and you won't even realize it, right? And I've seen it a lot. Like even I have personally lost it. Like if I don't follow like what I'm doing right now, and if I even try to deviate like a little bit of it, yes, I'm going to pay a price for that. So
For
I have learned my lesson, and that's where I'm trying to share the knowledge, which maybe here people will listen, and we can help out a lot more people do that.
I love it. I love it. And something you mentioned earlier about the side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back to and just kind of share my little quick story. When I opened my business here in Texas, I worked for a doctor 2 days a week, and working for him 2 days a week, he gave me the opportunity to work per patient, to get paid per patient, or to get paid, like hourly. And we worked out a deal to get paid per patient and see 2 patients an hour. And so in the 2 days a week that I worked for him, I was basically making $100 an hour because I was seeing 2 patients an hour. So I was making, $1,600 a week from 2 days of his place. So with that amount of money, and I could pay my rent at my office,
Yep.
I could pay my mortgage, and I could pay basically my bills, so that everything I made the Monday, Wednesday, Friday at my office was basically like, that was my profit. And then I needed to build myself up to be able to step away from that $1,600 a week from him. And it took me 6 months of working for him, or 7 months of working for him, to where I could leave and say, and I went to him very straight up. I was straight up with him and said, hey, I'm opening my own business, so I'll be here as long as I can, as long as I need to be here. As soon as I don't need to be here, I'm out. And we made a deal that I would not solicit his clients. Those were his clients. I wouldn't try to take them. But that if someone asked me what I did on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would tell them. But I would not solicit anybody. And when I would tell them, I wouldn't be telling them in a way to try to like get them to come see me. But in the reality, because him and I had a great relationship and I was upfront and honest with him, when I left, I still got referrals from him. I still get referrals from him to this day, 15 years later, because of the relationship that we built by being honest. And I helped him. I was making $50 an hour. He was making $100 an hour at that time. I'm sorry, he was making $100 a patient. I'm making $50 a patient. He was making $200 an hour. I was making $100 an hour. It was a win-win for both of us. Everybody was happy. I wasn't upset about the money he was making. He was happy that I was becoming a growing entrepreneur. He was excited to be a part of that process to help me. Dr. Gupta right down the street, I loved him, still do. So I just wanted to reiterate that point, because that was something that I didn't think I was going to have to do when I opened my business. But then I realized, I can be a lot more comfortable and a lot less stressed if I have this side hustle in this way. But it was designed that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't me trying to have a full-time job and then fit in a side hustle. It was like, whoa, this 2 days of work is actually going to afford my side hustle to become my real hustle. And that's
exactly.
That was my story. And it was fun.
So,
it was a process.
Yeah. No, I'll just add a little bit to it. Like, like your side hustle should be fitting into your long-term vision. It cannot be like, what I see right now going on in the industry is like, there's just random side hustles. You can't just jump into the random side hustles, because then those are too extreme. Like you have to have a bigger picture, and then like have a side hustle, which maybe you don't like it, or maybe you like it. It doesn't matter, but it has to fulfill to your long-term vision. As long as you do that, that will really help you, instead of having just a random side hustle and then you're just trying to stretch to the extreme, like having, like working in a nursing home, then you work as a, maybe technical side of something.
I love it. I love it. Now, let's just talk about numbers for a second. If you were to give some advice to a new business owner, someone who's just going out and starting their business, what are some of the numbers that they should be like most focused on?
Okay, so like I'll just talk about outpatient today. Okay. So as I said, like, there are some sensible things as a business owner you need to know without, putting even shoes into the water. So the number one is like identify, like, like what exactly, like what is your long-term picture, right? So that's what, like I do had like two main, like, mentees that I was mentoring. So this is how I did was like, first I need to know what is your bigger vision. It doesn't have like, maybe it's 10 year down, 15 years down. And number two is you have to understand the limitation of the business. Okay. If you don't know the limitation of the business that you are going in, you will be ending up like wasting a lot of money. So for example, I can explain is like if I have an outpatient in McKinney, the only market that I want to focus is 10-mile radius of that McKinney. Okay. There's going to be like I would say 5% patient who's going to drive more than 10 miles to my clinic, because there's going to be another clinic who's going to provide like same level of care, because when it comes to patient care, everybody is good. So why would somebody drive 30 minutes unless you're providing special care, but still the conversion rate will be like I would say 5 to 10%. So you don't want to waste too much money and too much time trying to capture that market. You want to focus on like 10% radius of your clinic, and that's where you want to be focused, wasting your money and wasting your time, so that can convert your like referrals. I've seen a lot of PTs doing this. This is very basic, very common mistake that they just go general. You cannot just go general. Okay, you have to identify the population that you're serving, and then market accordingly, like targeted marketing, so that, because especially like when you're starting out business, your money is limited, so you have to like every dollar has to make sense, because you could have paid to the staff, you could have paid to the upgrade the clinic, you could have paid that dollar to buy some equipment, or you could have just paid yourself that dollar, but you ended up wasting somewhere which like gave you no results, right? So that's like number one. Number two is as I was saying, like if you are like you have to like identify the business model. So if you want to serve like a Medicare patient and you want to open a clinic in a downtown Manhattan, the rent is going to be so high that the $120 an hour is not going to make any sense. So I would rather switch myself from downtown Manhattan to upstate Manhattan, which the rent is like really low. If I lose 5 patients, it's perfectly fine, but the rent is not going to kill me to a point where I cannot even survive. Yeah. So this is a very common mistake that people do, is like they rent out, or they just want to be in a like very nicer and posh areas, or open up their clinic or studios in like a very fashionable way. But at the end, do not forget that you have to make money out of it. Okay, it cannot just be $1 million practice and you burning $1 million in it, and then at the end, for me, that business is worthless compared to somebody like a small practice in Alabama, somewhere in far periphery, but making $10,000 bonus, right? Yeah. So that business is way more successful than somebody in LA or New York burning millions of dollars and making nothing.
That makes sense.
Okay. And I have seen those businesses like every single day. Like now what I do is full time. I'm switching to, now I'm developing like, connection to the brokers who are bringing me all these deals to my table. I evaluate morning to evening. What I do is like, I started looking, the deals that I get for healthcare businesses, because there's a lot of businesses are going up for sale. So I want to find the businesses that that interest me. And if the numbers make sense, then yeah, I would like to buy it and, run it successfully and make it exit. Like so far, I have made an exit out of 5 businesses successfully. And more I do, I'm building up that confidence and of course the experience behind it, because if it was that easy, everybody could have done it. But like, you need to know what you're doing at the same time, because not only you will lose your money, but you will lose your precious time of your life, which even at some point I did. Like I lost 1.5 years of my life, which failed, right? So ultimately I lost my money, but I lost 1.5 years of my life that I could have done way more things.
So let me rephrase a common word that I've heard multiple times: confidence. Confidence. Yes. In your clinical skills, confidence in your business skills, confidence in your evaluating these business, confidence in whatever it is. So I want to just say that word. That's the buzzword that I've heard over and over and over from no matter what we're talking about, what what level of our discussion, that word confidence has come out in every single one of them. So I just wanted to reiterate that to the audience, because I think we're taught as PTs to have this ego, but I don't think we're taught to be confident. I think we're taught to have ego, and we're taught to like stroke our ego. But confidence and ego are different, in my opinion. And having confidence in your ability to help someone, confidence in your ability as a business owner, those things are different than having an ego. And so I just wanted to go over that, because I think that's our biggest problem in the PT profession is ego.
Yes.
And I think the other problem is lack of confidence, because we're living behind an ego. So again,
and one thing, we are interviewing a PT for our McKinney clinic. We're just adding one more PT. So like yesterday, I was like interviewing 4 PTs. Yeah. And the best thing, I learned from my employer was these are some of the best advice I can ever get in my life. And one of that is learn to be a good employee if you want to be a good employer. If you cannot be a good employee, you can never be a good employer.
I like that.
These are the words from my first boss. He's a great guy, very, very rich. Of course, he flies in helicopter in New York City. So you can see how much rich he is, but very down to earth. Like his background was from nothing, very down to earth, but he taught me like lessons that really has changed my life. And when you hear this confidence, if I see myself, like when I got my first job, I was a 22-year-old kid, nervous, lack of confidence, skinny as hell. I was like 122 pounds or 130 maybe, but he saw me something that even I could not see it at that point. And that was because, when he hired me, of course, we did not have this discussion, but like over the period of time, when he saw me growing, one time we really had a friendly discussion, and I asked him like openly, what did you saw me? You made that decision that somebody who was fresh out of college, zero experience, and you handed him a multi-million-dollar business to run it, right?
Yeah.
And he said I can see myself in you. So I was like, wow, that's a very big compliment.
Sure.
For me, that was like so much of confidence boosting at that point.
That's right. I was about to say that.
And he told me that the moment I saw you, I can imagine myself like the younger version of you. And I was like, wow, that's thank you. You have made my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that comment itself has given me so much of confidence. Then every time I try, if I fail, I have my failures. Okay, everybody has failures. So if you don't learn from it, that's where you fail. You don't fail from your failure, but if you don't learn from it, that's where your actual failure is. And
for sure.
I have done enough mistake that converted into confidence. So when we are talking about confidence, of course, it comes from making mistakes. It does not come from, just a good side of it. The more mistakes you do and you learn from it and you improve, that is a solid confidence. Otherwise, the confidence without a success without failure is so much hollow because anybody's going to fail. Okay. Even my dad, his journey itself is challenging enough, from somebody who was a 10-year-old, very poor, grew up in a village of India, kind of thing, and then he moved himself up to a point where he owns several manufacturing factories and very well to do. So he has his own struggle, so he does inspire me. But at the same time, I was just lucky enough to get that first job who was motivating enough or even self-inspiring enough that has changed my life to the point where I am right now.
I love that you had that influence from your dad, though. My dad was a professor, And I'm a big fan of the Rich Dad Poor Dad book.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the book that changed my life. And when you look at that book, my dad was poor dad. He had the stable job. He was a PhD professor, worked at the college, worked 8 months a year, got his paycheck. But the idea of owning a business, like that was just like foreign to him. And he thought I was a little crazy when I went into my first business. He thought I was a little crazy when I bought my first investment property. He thought I was a little crazy when I started asking him if he was willing to invest with me in some of those deals. And then eventually he's like, whoa, he listened to me. And he was, because I grew up in that poor dad philosophy. Even though my dad made money as a professor, we still lived that poor dad mindset. And then you grew up with a dad that came from poor village in India to doing well and setting himself up. So he became that by what? Owning businesses, by owning manufacturing, by setting up the systems to make that money. And so you had that influence and that support. Whereas it's not that I didn't get support from my dad. He just didn't understand. He came from like, yeah, I got my PhD for that security. And I got my PT for the security, my PT degree for the security, let's be honest. But I realized real quick, for me to make an impact as a PT, I had to own my own business because that was the only way I would actually make enough money to survive in this industry. So I love that like you and I have come from kind of different backgrounds with what we've had as our influence, but yet that Rich Dad Poor Dad ties those two backgrounds together a little bit. So again, I love that we continue to find these commonalities, or not commonalities, but things that make us mix and makes our relationship stronger. Now, I love that you mentioned your story that got you talking, the PT with the cane. And I read that in your book. And I wanted you mentioned your book before, but I wanted you to give us the name of your book, and I wanted you to give everyone an opportunity that's listening how they can reach out and contact you. Any websites, any places on Facebook or whatever. But first, what's the name of your book? And then tell us how anyone could contact you to get more information about the stuff that you're doing, my man.
Okay, so I would like to apologize because like I have not done more of an online presence yet. I know like that's the back end work that is pending a lot, but I have not gotten time to do that. But anybody just the best way to do it is hit me on a Facebook, message me on a Facebook if you want to help. I would love to help you at like the best way I can, to review it, some of the financial, just to give you like a brief idea or free consultation of an hour. Yes, I would love to do it, And number two is the book that I have, the book name is The Journey from Employee to Employer.
I love it. And I've got a copy of that through your PDF. Is that something that people could find through Amazon?
Not yet, but yeah, that's something also I need to be publishing, but it will be coming out soon for sure. But I'm just trying to do it everything in a manner that will kind of coordinate it instead of having just a book, but stuff like that.
Got it. Understood.
But I would like I can just give it out for free for now. Anybody who would like to read it, just hit me up in a comment in a Facebook, and I'll definitely send you out a link in a PDF.
Got it. Yeah, I've read it, and that's how I have it as through the PDF, and it was good. So I love to hear the story come out, as we talk about a story that I've already read about and that I knew was an influence, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, as a PT, as a young
Andy is just reminding me that, okay, so I do have a group. It's called a Healthcare Entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, forgot about to mention it. Even I've been, lately not posting anything in that group, but I have a group. It's called Healthcare Entrepreneurs. And what I want to take initiative is I would like to collaborate, with Steven or some industry leaders who are already, have made that journey, because what I found out is everyone has journey, right? And I'm always interested into finding out, journey of the people who has made it, like, Steven or, some other guys, or like, Greg, or, similar people. So to, like, someone who is starting out, so that they can learn from that experience and, try to apply some of the principle, or some of the, like, the one example that I would say is like, I also started like a YouTube channel called The Curious Entrepreneur. And, of course, I have interviewed you and other people. So that is also one thing that I started, as to know people's journey who has made it already, right? So you can just go to YouTube, find The Curious Entrepreneur. That's like, I think I have 9 episodes already, and I'll be starting like a season 2 once I finish up with my this current business. So the coming back to a point is like, there's a lot of common mentality when it comes to following successful people. The one thing I can say is like Rich Dad Poor Dad, or influence of books in general, right? Maybe it's a different book, but influence of book is something that I found, like, common in each and every person that I have relate to, or I have interviewed, or I can look up. They have always told me that, okay, this was this book that taught me this thing, or had an influence in my life. And even I cannot thank enough about like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I learned a lot from that at my early stage of life, which I would say I'm learning it right now. But now I can relate. Oh, I have like already known it, like cash flow quadrant, or how you make a transition from employee to employer, or what is the advantage of being 1099. How to take the tax benefits, what are the write-offs, those kind of things, which that book explains it in a so much good way that everybody should know this. This is basic. You are doing a huge favor to yourself if you know these things. And if you don't, please read this book, because again, it's not my personal books, but something that is going to help you for sure.
That's right. That's right. It's that mindset shift.
Yes.
That if you don't have the mindset shift, if you just want to open a business, but you don't really have the shift in mindset from an employee to being that employer, it's really hard. So without that book, I would have never done it. And as soon as I read that book, I opened my corporation in LA within a month of reading that book.
Exactly.
And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just started doing it, and little by little, I went to my boss immediately, and it was a job I knew I wasn't going to be at very long. And I said, hey, can you pay me as a 1099 instead of a W-2? And he goes, sure. It saves me on tax money. It saved him money. And I said, can you pay me a little extra? And he goes, sure. So I got a little higher wage without any taxes taken out. And that was at a time where that was my first 1099 business. Yeah, I was just working for someone, but it allowed me to work for him for about 2 months and put all that income straight into my business. And then I went out on my own and was done with him and started creating my own contracts and finding my own places to work with. And it was a fun journey. But if I would have stayed at W-2 or in that mindset of a W-2, it's totally different. And again, I love the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm not sure which one of his books he talked about this, but he's like, if you have $100,000 as an employee, you then get taxed immediately 35, 40%. Then let's just say 40%, you got $60,000 left to pay everything that you live on, versus that business that makes $100,000 and pays rent, pays for the car, pays for the cell phone, pays for the computer, pays for a lot of things. And then at the end of the year is left with $20,000. And then you're going to get taxed on that $20,000 at a much less rate than you were at the $100,000. That was, for me, that's all I needed to know. I'm switching gears. And in my first gig, once I left that job where I had a full-time job, even though it became 1099, I realized I could work 25, 28 hours a week and make way more money than when I was working 40 hours a week as a W-2 by working 25 to 28 as a 1099. So that was my first shift. And this was back in 2001. And I'd been a PT for 3 years already and was already burned out. I was already done. I was already ready to leave the profession. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad kept me in the profession, but it changed me into an entrepreneur, and it totally did. It changed everything about my world.
Yeah, it just relates me to one of the mentee that I did like 2 years ago. So he did not had a business interest, but at the same time, you don't have to necessarily have a business in you. So his case was similar story. So, like if I will explain in my example is like if I was working in New York because I was an employee making $100,000 to $150,000, New York has a state tax. Texas does not, right? So on the top of 30 to 35%, you're paying 8.5% state tax.
Yeah.
So if you make $100,000 in New York City, the act like you are almost paying $42 to $45,000 in taxes alone before you even have to see your money. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's like $60,000 plus on the top. New York City is so much freaking expensive because, of course, I live in Texas. I know the difference,
Yeah.
and everything is just expensive. Like a gallon of milk is $4, gallon of gas is $4. Right now we have 2.5, right? And that was one of the point that made me switch from New York to Texas because the economic of scale does not make sense if you are an employee. Okay, so and the reason is again is your salary is going to be the same as a PT. If you work in a New York City or Texas, or there may be like $5,000 to $7,000 difference, but at the same time you have to see how much you are saving. It's not about how much you are making, it's all about how much you are saving, right? So these are the things that has helped me and is helping me because I'm not only focused on making money, at the same time I'm also focusing on saving money, which is doubling my profit. So I'm making 100,000 plus I'm saving $100,000. So now my profit is $200,000.
It's a totally different world.
So, but if I'm just focused on just like making that 100,000, the max I can push is 120. But doing that, I'll even burn myself, right? And I see it a lot in a business. Okay, people are like from 100,000, if they want to go to 150, they're literally going to burn themselves just to get to 150. But they're purely missing out a point that there is a $50,000 that you can save, which is going to add up to 150 without. It's just like this, without making some minor tweaks that I said, maybe you want to renegotiate your lease because right now is the best time that if your lease is up and if you're leasing, if you're owning, that's fine. But if you're leasing, right now is the time that you have to renegotiate the lease and save that extra $500, which is going to add $6,000 to your pocket just like that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's those little things.
Yeah.
And that, looking at the money and looking at the numbers, we didn't learn any of that in school. We learned how to look at the goniometer. How much flexibility does that elbow have? What's that flexion? What's that extension? That's the numbers we learned. We learned a totally different numbers. And again, I went into business not knowing anything about those numbers and learned it along the way, figured out what was important along the way. And really, I wish we would have had some training in school. I wish we would have had some ability to, my business training, again, I finished in 98, so it's been a while. But my business training is they brought a guy in. He was a home health PT, and he talked about how he owned a clinic, but he had to work home health in order to make ends meet. And he drove around from the clinic to home health eating his sandwich in the car because he didn't have time to eat lunch. That was my business lesson, that this guy didn't have time to eat lunch, so he had to eat it in the car, and he had to do home health to make his clinic make ends meet. And this is the guy you brought in to tell me how, about business? Come on, people. So, I didn't learn anything from him other than peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and an apple, because he could eat that easily in his car on that drive from one thing to the other. And I'm going, man, that wasn't very inspiring. That didn't make me want to go out and own a clinic and then have to eat lunch in the car because I'm driving all over to try to make it work. So it was a very interesting thing. And that was so guess what? I was kind of like, business is ridiculous. If this is what they're going to teach me about business, I don't want anything to do with it. So I pushed it away. And then I was to it.
Yeah. So when we talk about numbers, people only think in a way of business. No, numbers are everywhere. There's a growing, burning topic that I see is, does it make sense to be a PT right now? Okay. So if I see it in a numbers perspective, right? So PT degree is equivalent to $80,000 to $100,000. job, right? So any given day. So if you go to a school and like incur a student debt of $400,000, $500,000 compared to you can go to state university, get a PT license because at the end, as long as you have a PT license, you're the same,
Yep.
right? So I have a good buddy who went to NYU, spent $100,000 a year, has $400,000 in student debt when he got out, and I went to the cheap university, $20,000 per year, but at the end I worked I was like debt free. As long so you have to understand the value of your degree, and again it comes down to numbers. Does the number make sense, right? And like what I'm trying to say is for me it always converts into number regardless of the situation. So it doesn't have to be your business situation that you are struggling that I can help out. We can help out as anything that even if you're struggling as a financial or as a professional to make out the decision, we can definitely help you out with that too. Because I did actually for this guy, and I explained him the same my situation. He was like a PT in New York City, getting $100,000 and barely saving $10,000 for himself. Not even $10,000. He was like negative every year. He had almost $10,000 of credit card debt because of he was living in the city, working in the city, but he was still not able to make the meets end. But then he moved to Oklahoma, where he was getting $86,000 and he's saving $36,000 every year. He paid off his debt and now he saves almost $30,000 from that job alone. So just imagine like that 30,000 saving is equivalent to a business, having a business giving you earning of $30,000 because you have to make it work to give you the $30,000, right?
That's
so
right.
At the end, you making the money. That's the whole story. You can own one business or you can own 10 business or you can own 100 business. But at the end, do you make money? Okay. Somebody with one business is making more than money than 100 businesses. That business is way more valuable than that 100 business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So yeah, that's that's the number again. And I'm the number guy.
Numbers. Well, I love it, Vijay. I appreciate your time, man. I'm going to say one more thing about the what you just mentioned, and then we'll wrap it up pretty quickly. You mentioned going to school and the amount of money that you chose to spend a lot less than someone else. I was in that same situation. I could have went to a bigger undergrad college, but I chose to go to a smaller undergrad college. And the smaller undergrad college, it cost me $1,000 a semester for rent, food, tuition, books, everything. I was there 5 years, $10,000 for a 5-year education. And then I went to PT school and I only had to borrow $30,000. So I got out of PT school with owing 30 grand and I paid that off in the first 2 years. And I was never burdened by student loan debt. But I also know friends that chose a different route. And they chose to spend a lot of money to go to undergrad school, where I'm like, I don't really care where I go to undergrad. I just need to get that piece of paper to go to the next level, because there was only one PT program in Louisiana, LSU. So my ultimate goal was to go to LSU for PT school, but I didn't care where I went to undergrad. So I went to the cheapest place I could go because it didn't matter to me. And a lot of people, they looked at me like, oh, I can't believe you're going to that school. That's a crappy school. And I'm like, hey, I had a ball at that school. It was amazing, but it got me to where I wanted. And no one's ever come in and asked me where I went to college. No one cares about where I went to college, whether it's PT school or undergrad school. They just want to know, can I help them with their back pain? They don't care about the rest of it. And that's been the beauty of it. And I love that point, because again, I know people that chose the most expensive PT school in the country, moved to there, spent a ton of money, and then they realize 10 years later, they're still paying a lot. Like they're still paying more in a month for student loan debt than I paid for a whole semester of tuition. And so it doesn't make sense to me, but that's what people do. Well, BJ, let's wrap it up, my friend. This has been awesome. We've gone over an hour now, and we could keep going for quite some time. But it's been great, man. And again, every time we talk, we go into some new levels of depth that I get to learn about you and your business, and you get to learn about me, and I love that. And you said a lot of different things. Confidence is the one word is my big takeaway from it. I've always been confident, and so that's something that has been a part of growing my business and my clinic and helping my people. And I love that was something that you reiterated over and over and over. And so again, it was just a great discussion, my man. And we were supposed to do this yesterday, and I totally yesterday. I totally flaked, man. I was a flake yesterday, and I apologize, my man. But thank you for your time. Sure. I appreciate it, man. And we will definitely do this again, because I feel like we could talk for another hour easily. So. Yep. Thanks a lot, my man, and we'll be seeing you soon. And anytime you come down to Austin, you let me know. And anytime I'm going to head up to Dallas, I will let you know as well. My Texas circle is starting to grow. My network of people that I've never met in person, but I know very well now through this online thing that has brought us all together. So thanks a bunch, man, and we'll see you soon, my friend.
Sure. Thank you so much. Okay.
You're welcome, buddy. You're welcome. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you did, could you do us a favor and leave some love and write us a review? My name is Stephen Dunn. I help physical therapists incorporate Pilates into their physical therapy practice. If you would like more information on how you can incorporate Pilates into your physical therapy practice, then like my Facebook page, Pilates for PTs.